Good morning. These are bleeding hearts. A bleeding heart is a person considered to be dangerously soft hearted, typically someone considered too liberal in political beliefs. A tirade against bleeding heart environmentalists. I've been called a bleeding heart and a tree hugger as well.
It's all in the dream, my friend, all in the dream.
So, what is the last unanswered question?
Tell us.
Find out. Do you not see that all your misery comes from the strange belief that you are powerless? Being helpless is the cost of sin. According to helplessness is sin's condition. The one requirement that sin demands to be believed. Only the helpless could believe in sin. Enormity, which is great wickedness or a wicked crime, has no appeal save to the little. And only those who first believe that they are little could see attraction there in great wickedness. Treachery to the Son of God is the defense of those who do not identify with the Son of God. And you are for your brother or against him. Either you love your brother or you attack him. Protect your brother's unity to see him shattered and slain by your attack. I'm
The
sorry,
ego.
can I
Oh,
read
go
that
ahead.
again? Can I read that again? Just scroll.
Sure.
Okay. And you are for your brother or against him. Either you love your brother or attack him. Protect your brother's unity or see him shattered and slain by your attack. That's closer.
No problem. The ego tells us that we're powerless against the outside world. Being powerless is a limitation, and it's an obvious attempt to limit the Son of God, each of us. If this were possible, it would be a sin. The unlimited cannot be limited. When we believe that we are limited, we are arguing for our littleness. We claim to be a victim of powers that are beyond our control. This is the illusionary belief. An illusion is any belief that something outside of our mind can affect or cause our personal experience. We deny our ownership of our own provisional reality. We deny our power of creation. To deny is to attack the Son of God's true reality. In our world of make believe, we're the cause of all we perceive. We, the dreamer, are the source of the dream. Only the dreamer will decide when he or she wishes to awaken. The Holy Spirit waits patiently for our call for the remembrance of God.
No one believes the Son of God is powerless. And those who see themselves as helpless must believe that they are not the Son of God. What can they who believe that they are not God's Son be except the Son of God's enemy? And what can they who believe that they are not God's Son do but envy the Son of God's power? And by their envy, make themselves afraid of the Son of God's true power. The powerless who believe that they are not God's Son, ones, silent and afraid, alone and not communicating. And of course, the dark ones is referred to as people of the light and who are not enlightened. The powerless who believe that they are not God's Son are fearful that the power of the Son of God will strike them dead and therefore raise up their helplessness against the Son of God. Those who believe they are not God's Son join the army of the powerless to wage their war of vengeance, bitterness, and spite on God's Son to make him one with them who are powerless. I need you to scroll a little bit, Lee. because the powerless who believe they are not God's son do not know that they are one with God's son, the powerless know not whom they hate, which is God's son, which is themselves. The powerless who believe they are not God's son are indeed a sorry army, each one as likely to attack his brother or turn upon himself as to remember that they thought they had a common cause, which was to attack the Son of God. Up to you, Lee.
If we believe that we're God's children, perfect, whole, and complete, it would be impossible to believe that we're powerless victims. To believe that we're powerless is to believe that we are either children of a lesser God, made in the ego's image, or that we're somehow self-created. Either way, we argue for our littleness and separation. This argument is our attack on truth, God, and his Son.
I want to just take a second and say, Marianne Williamson, who is political these days, wrote books, and most of you know this, many books actually, for many years. And one of the things that she's more often quoted in, I think it's The Power of Love book than any other quote attributed to her, is that if we only knew how powerful we were, it would be a totally different world. She doesn't say that, I'm paraphrasing, but she makes the point that we are not little people. We have tremendous power once we connect with the power that's already offered to us. Frantic and loud and strong, the dark ones who believe they are powerless and not God's son seem to be. Yet they who believe that they are not God's son know not their enemy, except that they know they hate their enemy. In hatred, they who believe that they are not God's son have come together, but have not joined with each other. For had they joined with each other, hatred would be impossible. The army of the powerless must be disbanded in the presence of strength. Those who are strong are never treacherous, because they who are strong have no need to dream of power and to act out their dream. Think of Gandhi and Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy. These were not people who pushed themselves on other people.
Yep.
They had no
They
need.
had the power of attraction.
Yes. How would an army act in dreams? Oh, any way at all. A dream army could be seen attacking anyone with anything. They're all about attacking. Dreams have no reason in them. They just do. A flower turns into a poisoned spear, a child becomes a giant, and a mouse roars like a lion, and love is turned to hate as easily. This is no army, but a madhouse. What seems to be a planned attack is really just bedlam in a dream.
Since we perceive ourselves to be separate from our brothers, we have no true allegiance to any party. We will attack friend and foe alike because we have no idea what anything's for. Therefore, we're unable to distinguish friend from foe. As the ego's plan for our happiness shifts from one goal to another, its battle plan changes. Someone we once perceived as a friend is now determined to be our enemy. The weak see danger everywhere, and thus believe attack is always warranted. The strong are those who understand that an illusion cannot impact their own sourceness. Remember, an illusion is any belief that something outside of our mind can affect or cause our personal experience. The Son of God knows this is not true. Therefore, the Son of God knows there could be no one to attack but himself or herself. The strong know their power comes from their Creator. and thus they are invulnerable.
The army of the powerless is weak indeed. The army of the powerless has no weapons, and it has no enemy. Yes, the army of the powerless can overrun the imagined egoic world of flesh-born perception and seek an enemy, but the army of the powerless can never find what is not there. Yes, the army of the powerless can dream it found an enemy, but this illusionary enemy will shift even as the army attacks, so that the army of the powerless runs at once to find another enemy and never comes to rest in victory. And as
They
the,
go on and on and on.
and as the army of the powerless runs, it turns against itself, thinking it caught a glimpse of the great enemy who always eludes its murderous attack by turning into something else. How treacherous does this imagined enemy appear, who changes so it is impossible even to recognize this imagined enemy.
Since the egoic thought system,
Let me read that 7 again. I just realized the deeper meaning that it has. How treacherous does this imagined enemy appear, who changes so it is impossible even to recognize this imagined enemy.
yes, okay, yep.
Thank you.
Since the egoic thought system is based on the instability of illusion, nothing within the dream is stable. Not knowing what we are, the insane ego cannot know where our true interest lies. The ego knows that by itself it's powerless. The only power that the ego has is derived from our own mind. In victim consciousness, we abdicate our mind's creative power to our egoic consciousness. To the ego, everything is a potential enemy, since everything is a threat to the ego's powerless self. Attack is seen by the ego as its best defense.
Yet hate must have a target. There can be no faith in sin without an enemy. Who that believes in sin would dare believe he has no enemy? Could he who believes in sin admit that no one made him powerless but himself? Reason would surely bid him who believes in sin to seek no longer an enemy that is not there to find. Yet first, he who believes in sin must be willing to perceive a world where sin is not. It is not necessary that he who believes in sin understand how he can see a sinless world, nor should he try to understand how he can see a sinless world. For if he who believes in sin focuses on what he cannot understand, he will but emphasize his helplessness and let sin tell him that his enemy must be himself. But let him who believes in sin only ask himself these questions, which we are about to read, which he must decide to have the vision to see a sinless world done for him. Oh, it's still in my readings. Okay. Do I desire a world I rule instead of one that rules me? Do I desire a world where I am powerful instead of helpless? Do I desire a world in which I have no enemies and cannot sin? And do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth?
These questions, when answered affirmatively, will acknowledge our desire to take responsibility over our experiences. We will be reclaiming our decision making power and rejecting egoic victim consciousness. We will be asking that the Holy Spirit help us to perceive differently. We will freely make the decision to reclaim our decision maker and choose again.
You may already have answered the first three questions, but not yet the last question, which is, Do I want to see what I deny because it is the truth? For this last question, which is, do I want to see what I deny because it is the truth, still seem, oh, for this last question, still seems fearful. And unlike the other three questions, yet reason would assure you all four questions are all the same. We said this year would emphasize the sameness of things that are the same. This final question, which is, do I want to see what I denied because it's the truth, is indeed the last question you need to decide. Yet this last question still seems to hold a threat to the rest of the first three questions. I'm sorry, go ahead, someone didn't need to. Yet this last question still seems to hold a threat the rest of the first three questions have lost for you. And this imagined difference between these four questions attests to your belief that truth may be the enemy you yet may find. Here then, your belief that truth could be your enemy would seem to be the last remaining hope of finding sin and not accepting your creative power as God's unlimited Son.
The last question, which was, do I want to see the truth? Do I want to see what I denied because it's the truth? It's a fearful one. We're afraid to ask truth the following question: am I a sinner who must be punished in everlasting hell? We fear truth's answer could be yes. There are many answers to that question that truth could give us, that the ego tells us we do not want to hear. The ego tells us that it's better to believe that we are right, even when we're wrong. Truth, according to the ego, is a very dangerous character. Ego defends this position with all of its insane logic. Happiness is the price that we pay to be right. We wish to be the arbitrators of truth. Our insistence that we are a limited ego body costs us our unlimited spirit. That's a pretty hefty price to pay. We argue for our egoic right to pretend that we are little, rather than to accept our divine birthright as a child of God. We abandon our happiness for the right to deny the truth about our spiritual essence. I think that's a great place for us to stop today.
Right.
We'll probably finish this chapter tomorrow, or section.
Okay.
There we go. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too, Lee. Bye, everyone.